I'd like to continue our conversation about the physical gesture of rotation. You notice I don't call it a touch release, and that's because with rotation, whenever we use this, yes, we release from the key at some point, but really the motion is back and forth between different keys. So that's why I call it a gesture and not a release off of the keys. So in Surfer Joe, in All-in-One Book 2C on page 2C, no, it's not on page 2C, it's in book 2C, but it's on page 55, there are wonderful phrases where the student must use that rotation gesture. So how do we have our students try it? The smaller the interval, the more difficult the rotation is to feel. So start with a bigger interval, like a fifth interval. And again, have them move their hand, wrist, and forearm together at the same time in the same direction. The other fingers should feel like they are just released on the keys, so nothing like this where the fingers that are not in use are being tightened or not comfortable at the keyboard. Also have the student release their elbow. All right, so that's a fifth interval, fourth interval, third interval. The more slowly you can have the student practice it, the better. So you notice that the four knuckles form a nice strong bridge. In the left hand, let's start with that fifth interval. Well, the student can stop, think about what they just did. Then the fourth interval, the wrist and the forearm move at the same time in the same direction. The thumb is just kind of hanging out by its friend, the second finger. And you notice the other fingers that are not in use are just released. They're not working at all and they're not tight. So this is not the way to play this. Back and forth like this. All right, and then a third interval. And here's the piece. There's some other good examples of this physical gesture of rotation in the same book. Let's take a look at page 17 together. Froggy Goes A-Courtin', a North American folk song. So this is a page called Technique with Mozart. So as you know, in Succeeding at the Piano, if there's a technique page, I put a composer in one of the corners, and then I say, oh, you're going to learn your technique today with Mozart, Beethoven, Haydn, Chopin, Brahms. So they get to know these composers inside and out when they use this method. So at the very beginning of this page, it says, 2 of the techniques listed will be used in this piece. Which 2 will you use? Circle them and practice the piece until it's comfortable, and then practice it some more. So are you going to be using the woodpecker touch release like this? Will you be using the kickoff touch release at any point? Or are you going to be using rotation? So 2 out of those 3 techniques the students will learn and will review. And you notice here we are teaching our students to be independent learners, to think about their technique, to think about their sounds so that they can apply what they're learning every day to something new. So what did I use? Some nice woodpecker touch releases and then some really wonderful rotation gestures. Now let's turn to page 29 together. The giant sequoia. Oh my goodness, long live those beautiful giant sequoias. In this particular piece, there are some rotational places, excuse me, not rotational places, but places that you can use rotation. And then in the next line, I show the student how to make an oval with their wrist. And so that's a different feeling, rolling, making ovals, than rotation. So we want to make sure our terminology is correct. Again, in measure 5, that's where we can use more rotation.